So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Martin. Hi.
Just for those who don't know and are watching, you are the architect that we've employed to design the auditorium for Holy Baptist Church.
That's
And
great.
you've got some amazing designs which you're going to go through with us in a moment.
Thank
But,
you.
Chris, do you want to say a little bit about yourself? How long have you been an architect for?
I qualified in 1984, so that's 41 years, I think, in practice. Of those 41 years, 35 I've been either a partner or a director and owner of the business that I have been in. I started off in 1984 working with my father for a year or so. He was an architect in Leicester.
Mhm.
And then I joined a multi-office practice in the home counties called the Charter Partnership, and worked with them, opened a new office for them in Poole in Dorset on the south coast, and then another office in London, was made a director, and ended up being managing director of that business. We were about 100 people strong.
Mhm.
Um, and then we had an approach from another practice, much larger practice, who was a PLC, and we ended up after a lot of negotiation being taken over by them in 2006. There were some very strange things going on with that business. The chairman, 8 months later, asked me to be the CEO of the whole group, which was 300 people strong,
Wow.
offices in 8 different countries, and after a little bit of negotiation, that happened, and I was CEO of that business until 2011, and we were then taken over by a big global Canadian group, and I thought there's only room for one CEO architect here, and he's now in Toronto. But he said, "No, I'd like you to stay on, Chris, and integrate your practice with ours," so which I did for 3 years, until 2015, the end of 2015. I was in my mid-50s then, realized I wasn't doing any real design. I was just managing business and people, and felt there was an opportunity for me to leave, come out, having integrated those two large companies together. And so I came out and did a little bit of freelance work for one or two tried and trusted clients who I've known for years, and set up my own business, which I've been doing since 2016, designing houses, one-off building, interesting buildings, do a lot of work with some high-end French chefs, and private houses, 2 or 3 other property company individuals, and it's all about. I find it's all about getting to know the client, liking the client. The client likes me. Been fortunate enough never had to bid for work. It's through negotiation, which is how I came to become known to you,
Yeah.
through Mark Chapman, your project manager. I'd done 2 or 3 projects with Mark, and many projects with the firm that he used to work with, which was again a big London practice, and we liked each other, worked well together, and he called me and said, would I be interested in this? And I said, absolutely, I really would. It's just my sort of project. Lovely people, interesting building use, that's the right sort of size and scale for someone who is basically just working on their own with a little bit of help here and there. But
Yeah.
and so consequently, that's how I've become to be engaged with yourselves after a little bit of a beauty parade, I know, and putting 1 or 2 ideas forwards,
Yeah.
but that's how it happens. So
Okay. So you're in the fortunate position where you don't have to go out, you know, you don't have to take any job that's there. You actually get to pick and choose.
I'm I'm
So
in the I'm in that fortunate position, which is lovely. I mean, I'm mid-60s. So what you see is what you get. A lot of grey hair, hopefully a little bit of knowledge along the way. And it's something that I just love still doing. So I feel as though I'm blessed, really, with that, to be able to do that and to have lovely clients such as yourselves and the restaurateurs and a couple of people who own big farms who I've worked with for years. So it's just a nice existence, really.
Good. So what's more important to you, the client or the building that you're going to be designing?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. It's that's a question like, how do you design a building? What's the most important thing? It's a complete matrix of enjoying working with somebody. Some clients are very, very well informed about what they want. Other clients are, how should I say, less well informed, but they know they need a building. So you then test what it is they want about the building, and then you look at the use and the scale and all of those. And I suppose after a while you can rapidly assimilate whether it's something that you'd want to be able to help with, or think I could. I mean, I have, I said, I don't think I can help you with that because either it's outside my expertise or it's something that just doesn't feel right. But that's so it's a complete matrix of, does it feel right? Is it the right kind of building? Is it the right kind of client body or individual? And how are they managed? And if I feel as though I can work with them and they feel they can work with me, which is it's very much a partnership arrangement, architect and client, and you get to know people really, really well. Which is lovely. So, I mean, in a moment, you're going to take us through some of your design process and the amazing designs that you've come up with. But I know that you had an initial visit here quite a while ago, and you came up with an initial kind of sketch design, didn't you? Fairly quickly, which you've kind of refined and changed over time until we've got what we've got final now. But really, what was it that struck you when you first came to the church? Did that design pop into your head straight away? How was it for you? Often a concept will come to me, but I think some of the real drivers were the sense of welcome that I got as an individual when I came, and felt that this is a really warm place. And I don't mean warm in temperature, I mean just warm in the human reaction. That I felt we've got to make something here that makes people feel as though they're being invited in, and to a larger foyer mingling space. And from that we can go to either some of the existing facilities or the new auditorium. And then thinking about the auditorium, I did a couple of initial thoughts about, should it be on 2 stories, should it be on 1 story? Ideally 1, because 2 stories introduces accessibility issues immediately, and it can be divisive in terms of the upper level and the lower level, not in terms of status, but just physically splitting a group of people. So almost initially thought, yes, let's try and get it into 1 level. And then I thought about the shape and form, squares, circles, octagons, stretched one way and the other. And that process can take literally seconds, just with a felt tip pen, thinking about it. And then discussion with yourselves about how you feel you want the congregation, audience, whatever however it's termed, to be in contact with the minister, the presenter, the group who are engaged in a service or other function. So that then began to inform the shape, and then with the shape and the size, and then you come into sort of things like the size of the seats. How many seats have we got? 330, whatever it is. But each seat has to have a particular space allocated to it and a leg distance. So that's a physical demand. By the time you've multiplied that by the number that you want to get in, you've got to have that amount of space. You've got to have some circulation space. You've got to have breathing space around it. That generates a volume and a thought of how high it should be.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you've got a 2-story building next door, and the end result of the building that we're now looking at is just very, very slightly higher than that, but only just slightly.
Yes.
So it gives it a kind of an architectural hierarchy of this is the most important space within the whole ensemble.
Yeah.
Not outrageously so, but inside that gives the right feel for a volume of over 300 people.
Yeah.
So it's multiplying so many things together to come with hopefully a very simple concept. And then when you've got that simple concept, you bombard it with all of the stuff like fire, escape, keeping the water out, how are we going to ventilate it, all of that, and then at the same time come back to aesthetics and think, how is it going to look? What are the materials? What's the rhythm that's set up by a frame that's either visible or invisible, and all of those things. So it's a very, very architects need to know a tiny little bit about many, many, many things, and recognise that when they don't know more than that tiny bit, know where to go and look for it. So
like
it's
church ministers, really.
Well, there you go. There you go. Absolutely.
So
I can see that.
In your design process, do you design from the outside in or the inside out, or is it a constant
change, constant flux
okay.
from 5 miles up,
Yeah.
looking at the site, thinking about the influences on the site from outside, to right down front door, how are we getting in, to back out to the side to look at it from a key view, to where the plant room's going to be because that's where the services are. So it's a constant change of scale that is, that's only comes through years, I suppose, of doing it. And I would imagine, being a minister, if someone comes to you, there's something they want to talk about that's sensitive, you use your experience of the word, personal experience, how it might affect them, guidance, your knowledge of the Bible to say, well, this happened, and footprints in the sand, for instance. I'm really struggling. He's deserted me. Well, no, actually, he's carrying you. It's all of those sorts of things that I think it's that multifaceted experience that I think comes to it.
Yeah. And
should I dive in or
just one last question, because I'm very interested in the design process and stuff like that. And your age may have an influence on this. Not being rude about your age at all, but how soon do you get in this? Do your designs move onto a computer? How much of it are you doing with actual physical pen and a piece of paper? How quickly does it move on to computer? Because there's so many computer programs out there, aren't there?
I use both all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll scribble away. I'll just draw. You can't really see that. Just draw little shapes and things about something and think, well, because you can so rapidly do it, and then go onto the computer, start to test it, come out, draw again, and that's important. Some people, I was always able to just draw in the same way as some people can do languages. I can't do languages, but I was gifted to be able to draw, and I think that in 3D that helps. So I will do at the next stage. I'll do some computer photographic images of the church, of the proposal, so that you can get a real realistic look. But so far I've just done, as you know, hand sketches, and hopefully it'll look something like like my hand sketches. But I think that it's all the way along, you need to be able to test these things by drawing freehand and then putting it in the computer. The joy of the computer is that you can change it a million times so quickly, whereas by hand you draw it and it's frozen and you've got to redraw it. But that's progress, as in everybody's life.
Well, why don't you show us what you've got? Okay.
I will share. Now this is just for anybody listening, this is what's called the Stage 2 report, which is effectively getting to a point with the design where we believe it's going to work. And that's a combination of the architecture, the structure, the services, your needs as a church, the space. We haven't gone to planning as yet. That comes at the next stage. But this is setting the boundaries of where the building should be. And a budget on it. It's a range, but it's got a level attached to it. Yeah. So this is basically the report which I produced with the engineers and project.
Not just you, is it? You've got experts to come in.
Experts advising on this, but I, as lead designer, I end up coordinating all of that into this report. So if I just share my screen, Martin, let's look at the essential building requirements. Which you have to consider, and was put together with a brief with the church members, the project manager, and so you're looking for 320 seats or thereabouts, flat floor, and or tables of 8 seats, at least 20, permanent raised stage for a band, 12 people, storage for seats and tables, generally permanent seating in place but flexible multi-use, welcome facilities, additional amended kitchen space, obviously loos, integration with existing building, shorten the long-term physical link. Existing buildings with existing building is obviously desirable. I would say it's essential.
Yeah.
Audio-visual space to control productions, an inbuilt baptistry. Welcome field, that's really, really important for the entrance internal, which is what I felt when I first came to the church. And then looking at those requirements with the site context. So you can see my cursor, but obviously that's the site and the existing building, existing church buildings on the key 2-story and 3-story buildings round about, indicative location of quite important trees, site boundary, and then key views, 1, 2, 3. These little fans are obviously the views from various vantage points to have a look at the building. So having all that in mind, as well as the building requirements. So matters that are integral to the formation of the new space. We've got arrival. We've got parking in here.
Yeah.
We've got the main circulation, we've got the heart of the building. This is not very well sequenced, I'm afraid, and the welcome. And we've got the new site. And we've got services as well, in existing services in these star...
Not church services.
No, building services, plant, boilers, fence, electricity. So that's the existing building context. And then physical design drivers. The current facilities and the form and shape of the building. It's got a ridge running this way, which is quite dominant, presenting, especially when viewed from the west, and a secondary ridge going north. We've got all of the points that I've just covered in terms of the feeling of welcome and the heart of the building. Space is required for the main worship, space is required for circulation, the heart and the welcome, existing plant, all come in. So we've got a site for a new building. We've got arrival, still has to be from here. It may well be that arrival disappears from the north, because this is parking, and we're going to have to put some kind of presentational face on the building, either on the west and the south side. It's not so good always to have a presentation to the north, which is furthest away from the southern side of your existing building. A and B would be potential places for plant to service this new space, and I looked at one or two of each of those, and I've come down with a favoured and preferred one. And after much, I've leapt 3 months here, but after much discussion and iteration of the scheme, we've got a proposal.
Yeah.
which is basically an octagonal room supported by a plant room on the north side, stores for tables, chairs, little room space for you or whoever else is presenting, loos, extension to the kitchen, and then a really large new foyer space which is added to the existing foyer space, so the heart becomes this much bigger area. And then a very visible entrance, an undercover external space here, moving through a wide entrance lobby into this space. So arriving at the building now is for pedestrians and for vehicular born people coming through here into this space. I toyed with the idea of having the stage here. I also toyed with the idea of having the stage at the western end. But we felt through discussion that the longer distance of this meant that anybody sitting this way facing a stage to the west was going to be a lot further away from the point of delivery.
Yeah.
So by turning it round this way, it makes it much more inclusive and welcoming within the auditorium. So that illustrates that we've got 332 seats shown in that layout. We've also got 21 tables shown in that layout. Maybe that we've got the table too many in there for means of escape, and that's something that's going to get driven out in the next level of detail. But it's still reasonably generous. Images of how this might look. We've got a large volume. We don't want columns inside the main space. We want something that's going to support the roof. And so looking for sustainable forms of a building frame in order to be able to do that. I've done several buildings in the past which have been done in glulam timber, which is a very strong but sustainable material, being timber as opposed to predominantly steel. And some examples of buildings, either religious or assembly. I just put these in to give an illustration of how buildings with glulam frames might look. We've got a large span to get across. We need to avoid columns. It's ideally suited to this form of structure. It's a very sustainable form because it's growing, and it can become itself a visual feature which is very attractive. So I've just illustrated some similar examples. This one in particular was something which I felt this is quite this is going to be expensive building. This one on the right. This is obviously smaller, but I felt that this one had a real hint of what the feel might be like inside. Whether we have a timber floor or a carpet, that all of that is to be discussed.
Yeah.
So looking at potential forms and cross sections, I don't know whether everybody understands about cross sections, but basically if you cut a slice, like cutting a cake, through the middle of the building, you end up with drawings like this. So this grey here is the existing building through the entrance foyer, and then looking into the length of the building, looking at the stage. This is looking the other way. This is the point of arrival. If you go into the page at this point, you end up in this space. Raised stage here with there'll be a lid for the general periods of time over the sunken baptistry.
Yeah.
But that would then, for a baptism, that would be nearly filled with water, has steps down to be able to assist the baptism. So that's basically just showing whether they're long sections or cross sections. And those sections are taken through A, B, and C on this plan. This drawing shows that the dark blue is effectively 2 stories in overall height, but there's no intermediate floor. It's a double height space. And the pale blue is single story. It also shows the lines of the structural frame within the building, and it also shows, which you probably can't see at this scale, potential routes for ventilation. We need to be able to we're looking to air condition the space, which means we've got to shift volumes of air around, and shifting volumes of air takes big ducts, which we ideally don't want to see. So we've devised a way of getting these concealed within the roof space of the single-storey elements, feeding in and then extracting in the right places to make the auditorium as comfortable as possible. Last thing you want is 330 people, each of them is a kilowatt basically. So we've got 330 kilowatts of heat being generated on, it wouldn't matter in a cold day, but in a warm day you need to be able to get rid of that heat.
Yeah.
So that's what that drawing's about. And then looking at how this might fit in the setting. This is a drawing of looking at the existing west elevation. The entrance is here. And then this drawing is a proposal showing the new building in front of the old building. This roof here is the roof of the existing building, but all of this is the new building in front. And we felt there was a real opportunity to do something, whether it's as brightly coloured as this, to put some coloured glass in with a rainbow feel, going through the rainbow colours from the ground to the ceiling. Obviously, the iconography of the cross, but felt that there was an opportunity to replicate the same sort of materials, render, brickwork, but in an interesting way, to give a real statement that this is a place of worship.
Yeah,
because that's what it is. That's what it is. As well as it will be used for other purposes, I know, but essentially it has to tell a story, and I think that's the idea behind where this has come from. Mm-hmm. Just looking from the car park elevation, which is the south, again, this is the existing building here.
Yeah.
And then the new building is a zinc roof over the main auditorium, zinc roof over the lower space. And this is the external covered way in here, front doors through here. If you go through the doors, you get into the welcome foyer between the two buildings. And then another little hint of some coloured glass, either done with a film or stained glass. I'm not sure. That's down to cost and
yes.
practicality on this southern side. But at the ground floor level, as you're coming in and being welcomed in, ground floor windows, so you can be able to see into the space. So there's a real inside-outside connection at that point. These can be blinded off if you need to have a dark envelope production.
Yeah.
And that's a standard thing. They would have to be automated at high level, but they could be manual or automated at ground level. So that's an idea behind the two key elevations. The north elevation is more functional.
Yeah.
The back of the kitchen, back of the loos. This is the back of the existing building, back of the plant room and the stores. But you can see the same shape of roof.
And then, like you said, you're using the same sort of roof that we got on the current building. You're using the same sort of rendering. Yeah.
Exactly. The roof, the zinc roof, is just standard. The whole of Paris was covered in zinc 200 years ago, right, whereas the whole of London was covered in lead. Lead is 5 times heavier, 5 times more expensive. The zinc looks just as good. And for a building like this, it's perfect.
I think zinc sounds like a better idea.
It doesn't tend to get nicked either.
No.
So that's the north elevation, and then to just get an idea of a feel of how this hangs together. Everything I've talked about. Basically, we've got the existing car park and the main court road. The period of welcome of an outside space which is covered, coming through the front door here, double height room with this sort of stretched octagon of the auditorium, and as I was saying, some colour glass at this west end and a little replication at the east. Zinc roof, just a little bit higher than the existing, same roof pitch.
Yeah.
This is a flatter roof pitch for the single story, which just it makes it sit nicely. And then we're getting pretty close to the backs of these trees. That's something that I need to resolve for planning, and we will probably have to lose a little tree just at this corner, but the scope to put some nice planting along the front to keep maintenance to a minimum rather than having grass to mow. And that's something that we can obviously discuss. So that's the outside, and then inside, just an idea. Again, you can see that these timber frames are the glulam timbers will be exposed with exposed timber purlins, and then probably a plastered ceiling to make it light with some definition. And I've shown a sort of a suggested carpet type colour as opposed to timber. We need to be careful with acoustics. Doesn't want to ring like a cathedral. Because you have all sorts of other activities in there, but it needs to have a resonance. So that's again the next stage for us to look at. And I think that really is at the moment. Oh, I've missed a load of detail out, but just to take you through a canter of where we've got to.
Okay, no, that's great. A question. I mean, obviously you've gone through a lot of conversations with engineers and to kind of move through the design, because you've altered things from your original idea, and we're now getting to the time when we're going to go to planning permission, and then I presume the next stage would that be going to a builder?
We need to go through planning, and that'll take us a little while to get to. We're aiming to submit planning towards the end of January, and then depending on fundraising and the next stages, we will then need a period of time to prepare a set of what's called employees requirements, which is detailing out technically the performance of the building, and some key elements where we know it's got to be like that in order to satisfy your needs and to satisfy the weather and the ground and everything else. And then we've put that to a number of contractors, and get them to price against it, and then it'll be somewhere between 10 and 12 months build. I would envisage.
Okay.
So it's the earliest. If you were able to commit to the money now, the earliest we'd be on site is probably summer next year.
Okay.
I would say by the time it's technically drawn, priced, it's going to take 6 weeks to price. It's going to take at least 6 weeks to do the detail, and it's a question of whether we do all of that whilst planning application is running through, or whether we wait until we know we've got planning, and that's a potential little risk in terms of commitment to the team to progress forwards. But it's of that sort of period of time.
Yeah. And in your experience, how closely so all the buildings you've done, how closely does the final product resemble those drawings that you've just shown me, those initial kind of
tricky one? I'd like to think reasonably accurately. I mean, these are artist impressions, but I've got a little wireframe model that I set them up on, which is done through the computer. So I'd like to think that these are good indications. Of I mean, I could show you other schemes where I've done the sketch, done a very similar drawing to this, and then the finished photograph, and I think you can tell that it's the same. It's one of the same.
So we're kind of at the stage where things are fairly final. There'll be tweaks here and there to try, and I presume will the builder have some sort of say on how certain bits and pieces are done?
Yeah, I think he will be given a certain, in order to get the best price, but we will set in stone those things which we do not want changed.
Yes.
At all. So if I just go back, for instance, just a little bit on the the things that I know that we've got to look at are the provision of loos. There is a requirement in a building of assembly come in the last year or so to have an assisted accessible loo, which means that the accessible loo has got to be about twice that big.
Okay.
So something that you and the church team, myself and Mark, will need to discuss is there another space somewhere else in the building where we could do that, because it could be moved somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think we've probably got to provide another couple of ladies' loos, or have a discussion with building control to say that, well, we've got plenty down here as well as these in here in addition, and talk about the overall capacity of the whole building.
Yeah.
I think they've come back to us on having seen these drawings and said, well, look, you've got a building here, you've got 330 people in here, you've got 160 people in here, and you could have another 60 people in here. So we're looking at 600 people. We need enough loos.
Yeah. Or big queues.
So,
or big queues.
Or big queues. Yeah. There's a question of the underlying capacity, the max that the building is expected to behave to. So that sort of level of detail. But I don't think it's going to make much difference to the outer envelope. I don't think it's going to be much difference to the outer envelope of the auditorium, or the foyer here.
Yes.
It may be that this line has to come forward a tad. It may be that the kitchen extension changes shape a little. There's a little bit of scope there, but not much.
Yeah.
I'm conscious that I've eaten into this little play area a little bit, which is just here, but we've got to make we've got to make room. I can't go this way much because we've got some big trees.
Yes. Yeah.
So there are technical things which might affect the shape a little bit, but we'll be hanging on to this form of the auditorium both in plan and in section.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess when you go to planning, it's more about the external than the internal.
Very much so. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. And how it sits and what else is affected, and highways, access, trees, parking, all of those things. But having said that, you have previously had an approval in 2013, was it, or something like that?
Yeah, probably. Like, we've been in this building 10 years, so we've been a couple of years before that. Yeah.
2034, a building that's not dissimilar.
No.
It's a little bit smaller because that building had a gallery. I think 40 or 60 seats in the gallery. So it was a little bit smaller, and it didn't have anything like the space surrounding for storage and loos, which we feel is necessary.
Yes.
To make this facility something that is really enjoyable to be in. The last thing you want to do is invest and provide a space, and people say it's great, but we've got to queue for hours to go to the loo, and we can't get a cup of coffee, and it's cold, and in the winter, and it's hot in the summer. Yeah, that's not it. That's about making the building perform, as well as look good. So I think all of that is the next stage for us to develop.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Chris. That's been really interesting and informative, and it's exciting to see your designs. It's exciting to know this is potentially, in all probability, what it's going to look like. You got some tweaks and changes in here and there, but actually, this is pretty much it, isn't it? So
I think we're getting to the point where and you've been kind enough to support where we've got to and helped all along the way, which is how it should be. So hopefully we'll be able to see this building come to fruition in the next 2 to 2.5 years.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much, Chris.
Martin, thank you very much, and have a great weekend.